Well, good afternoon. My name is Mena, and my group also consists of Alondra Pereira, Fabiola Romero, and Rubén James. The topic I will be talking about today is the reduction of coasts in Puerto Rico, which is a very serious problem that the island is facing. And if it's not treated the way it's supposed to, this can affect us in the long run. So here's the introduction. The purpose we chose this topic. Erosion is the gradual destruction which is affecting our coasts, and we chose this topic to investigate erosion and its effects on our coasts. To talk about the effects Hurricane Maria had on the beaches and how it accelerates this process, the process of erosion, and to find solutions to try and save our coasts. Another purpose, which I would like to also talk about, which is not here, is that in the long run, if this problem isn't treated, it can affect tourism in the island, since tourism is a great source of income in the island if our beaches are affected, and since most tourism that comes to the island comes to visit our beaches, if our beaches are affected, then the tourism will also be affected, and that source of income can be affected or lost in the future, and this will affect our economy in the future. So our thesis statement: erosion is a natural process that has been impacting our coasts for many years, and with the passage of Hurricane Maria, this process has sped up exponentially. So here you can see the overview, which is basically the order in which we will be presenting the information found during our research in the reduction of coastal erosion. First, we will start off with the explanation, which we will be explaining key concepts and the causes of coastal erosion around the island. Secondly, observations, which we will show pictures of the beaches, some of the beaches in Puerto Rico, and show how erosion has affected these beaches. Third, we will discuss the causes to show you why coastal erosion is happening around the island to give you a better understanding of how this problem came to be. Fourth, we will be talking about the problem forecast, which will be the consequences if this problem isn't fixed, how the island will turn out if coastal erosion is still a thing in the future. And lastly, we will be talking about the solutions, providing possible options of how to fix this problem. So, as I said, we will be starting out with the explanation. So, here are some of the topics we will be talking about during the explanation, which is we will be discussing what is erosion, the effect on the coastal areas. We will also be providing some visual aspects and some graphs and the dangers it can cause. So, what is erosion? Erosion, the definition is the process by which the surface of the earth is worn away by the action of water, glaciers, winds, waves, etc. And also here in the slide, as you can see, we have two photos which kind of give you a perspective of how coastal erosion looks in some of the beaches around Puerto Rico. So, what are the causes of coastal erosion in Puerto Rico? So, during our research of coastal erosion in the island, we found out that most of the areas that do not have vegetation are more likely to be affected by coastal erosion. and also areas with a lot of pedestrian activity. Another cause is the climate, since Puerto Rico is a tropical island, and due to the geographical location of our island, uh, the temperature and climate is different from other places. And also, this increases sea level, which also adds up to this. And finally, Hurricane Maria, which due to the strength it had and the impact it damaged, it caused to the island. It had radical changes to our coasts, in which some of these changes were the increase in coastal erosion. Here's a graph of the the marine area. So in the observations, the beach that was visited is located in Arecibo, Puerto Rico. So the beach Casa y Pesca in Arecibo is one very visited by tourists and is mostly frequented by surfers, mostly known for its high swell. Its tide has been so strong that multiple cases of people who have died drowned by the situation have been reported. It's one of the few beaches that has almost never been reported as polluted and is normally completely clean, since visitors have a good management and take care of it. When visited, little traces of pollution and garbage were present, these mostly caused by tourists. While visiting the beach, it was observed that drastic changes had arisen. These alterations are mostly due to the passage, 1 year ago, of the atmospheric phenomenon Maria. During the hurricane course, the force of the tide increased in most of the coastal areas, consuming most of the shores of many of the beaches, Casa y Pesca being one. This beach has been very evident of having erosion and sliding traces, causing the shore of the beach to be covered by the tide of the water, and having very little space to walk on. The strong tide that it had before was also affected by the atmospheric phenomenon, causing it to be no longer as strong and dangerous as before. Although the beach has been greatly affected by the impact of the hurricane, it is still frequented by many tourists and surfers, making it to be a well-known and attractive beach for visitors either to enjoy it in the water or just to sit and relax for a while. As you can see here, these are some before and after photos of the beach Playa Casa y Pesca. Now we move on to the causes of coastal erosion. So here we have a graph of the five main causes of the reduction of our coast around the island. First, I'm going to talk about global warming. Global warming, as you may know, is a phenomenon that is affecting, well, obviously worldwide, but in the case of Puerto Rico, it is causing a change in the water temperatures, which can lead to bigger tides with more strength, and when they impact our island, they can cause great damage, which it can also affect the coast by when the tides hit the sand, it carries more sand with it, thereby eliminating more sand from our coast and leaves our coast unprotected from coastal erosion. Our second point will be rising sea levels. This can also be a problem that is derived from global warming, since due to the heat and glacial melting, the water levels around the island have risen. This keeps pulling sand away from our coasts, as I mentioned before, and leaving them unprotected, which can accelerate the coastal erosion process. Third, we will talk about atmospheric events, which An example can be as the Hurricane Maria, which caused great damage to the island and has had a radical impact on our coasts. This doesn't necessarily have to be just Hurricane Maria, just big atmospheric events like storms, uh, big tropical storms, just huge atmospheric events that can have an impact on our coasts. The next cause I'm going to talk about is the construction near coasts. Usually, buildings around coasts aren't usually done legally, as I'm going to explain further on. So, buildings near coasts are a great factor in this problem. Mostly, this applies to buildings who are violating building laws and are built incorrectly. So, usually, these buildings that are done near coast, they don't usually follow the law, and they take away big chunks of the coast, which, as I said before, they leave our coast unprotected because they're taking up space that is supposed to be sand, and now there's a big building there. So as the water hits, it keeps eroding and keeps taking away land. And since there's no sand there, there's only a big building. Well, it's probable that uh, that we will have coastal erosion in that area. And the last cause I'm going to talk about is the infraction of the law, which is a problem that is also derived from the construction near coasts, since usually building companies do not follow certain regulations, and they just build a building near coasts, and this can be a huge problem, and it also affects coastal reduction erosion. So now we move on to the problem forecast. So as you can see here, you can see the some images of effects of erosion around the island. So here we can see the rate at which the coasts are being eroded in the highlighted areas over the course of time. So as you can see in the top right, you can see the different colors, and the the purple one is the most severe, which as you can see there is no severe, but there is high. It is seen in the west coast near Aguadilla. So this can be in the future. It might be severe, and around other areas of the coast, these numbers can keep climbing up if this problem isn't solved. So the danger that it can bring towards our citizens is uh, some dangers it has brought is the increase in floodings, since part of the population of Puerto Rico live near coasts. This can be a hazard during a flood and can lead to loss of homes, debris in the area, injuries, or death. It has also been a danger to our flora and fauna, which should be preserved and protected. Here are other problems of coastal erosion. More contaminants in the water. So since the water is coming more towards inland, it can pick up some harmful chemicals that are found in the land, like toxins or insecticides, etc. And now that those chemicals are found in the water, so during time, if the water keeps getting more inland, well, it can pick up more chemicals, and the water will just become polluted, and that beach will we can't get in the beach anymore because it can be harmful to our bodies. And another point I would like to talk about is one I've already talked about is sand loss. Since the tides are getting stronger, uh, they can pull away more sand, which leaves the beaches unprotected and cannot protect them coastal erosion. Another point is economic losses. So, due to the damage coastal erosion can cause in our beaches, this means the government needs to uh, put more money and invest more money in trying to fix this problem. And since, as you may know, Puerto Rico is in great debt, we don't necessarily have the money to be fixing these problems. So it is very probable that this problem cannot be fixed. So it is something we need to take into account. Damage to infrastructures, which this leads back to the causes, which is the buildings that are built incorrectly and in areas they shouldn't be. When a building is near a coast, well, if it's not done correctly, it can hit the building, and during time it can erode the base of the building, and it can, in the future, it may just fall, and it could be very devastating if people are living there, and it may cause death and a lot of loss, and it could also pollute the water since all the debris can is in the water now. So it could be a great tragedy. And another topic is the weakening of rocks and soil. Since coastal erosion is constantly hitting the coast, it is constantly weakening the rocks and soil. So it will be, as I already said, weakened, and it'll be less. Uh, the coast won't be able to protect the inland very efficiently if it loses its rocks and soil. Another topic is the harm to biodiversity, which if the water gets inland, it may be able to get some the flora and fauna, which some of them are endangered species, and we need to preserve them. So it will be a loss. So finally, we're going to talk about the solutions for the reduction of coast around Puerto Rico. First, we have using vegetation, when since vegetation helps strengthen the soil and makes it hard for the tides to to break down the rocks and soil and sand that are in the coast, and it will be much more difficult for it to be eroded. Second, we have the breakwaters, which is a tool we can use by placing around the coast of Puerto Rico, which can soften the impacts of the strong tides and waves that are constantly being hit around the coast of Puerto Rico. So yeah, it will basically decrease the strength of the impact of the waves, which will obviously decrease beach erosion. Another aspect are the groins, which is pretty similar to the breakwaters, which can help soften blows from the strong tides around the island. Some other options are beach nourishment, which which is a kind of a way to restore the lost sand from the strong tides, which can carry away sand, which is very important for us because sand is what protects inland and prevents from the water eroding the coasts. Another aspect are seawalls, which is basically the same concept, and also yetis. Yetis and seawalls are pretty much the same concept as breakwaters, which just help soften the constant blows from the tides and waves being hit every every day from the strong tides on the coasts. So here we see the approximate costs of each of the remedies and possible solutions from the slide I just showed you. And vegetation obviously will be the least costly, since it's just planting all the vegetation around the island, uh, while the others are obviously more expensive, since most of them will require building the structures around the coast of Puerto Rico, which is money we don't have, but there are possible solutions and there are possible options that we can use to prevent coastal erosion. So, what can one do to help with this problem? Uh, One of the things we can do is educate others regarding coastal erosion, which is basically informing and being aware that this is an actual problem and can affect us in the long run, and how can we actually help to prevent the island from being affected from this. Another thing we can do is actually engage, which is basically taking action, volunteering, etc., and actually taking a part of preventing coastal erosion around the island. Another thing we can do is join the IECA, which is the International Erosion Control Association, which is a nonprofit member association that focuses on stormwater erosion sediment control industry. And it offers education and resource information regarding the topics I just talked about. And it also provides research for engineers to establish practice and expertise in related areas. So the conclusion for our topic is that coastal erosion is a very serious problem that is being affected around all the island, and it should be taken care of, because if not, this can lead to very bad effects in the future, and it can greatly affect the island, as much as the flora and fauna and the citizens of Puerto Rico. Another part is the global warming. Human ignorance and atmospheric systems are responsible for much of the coastal erosion due to the damage we've done. Erosion destroys coast fauna and flora, which, as I said before, should be preserved and protected. And due to our irresponsible actions, these are being affected. The government should take action and shouldn't be ignoring this, since this can also, in the long run, affect our economy. And they should be looking for solutions to solve this problem. And the last bullet I would like to talk about is that we should take immediate action to help preserve our coasts. So these are the references that were used for the information provided in the PowerPoint. And thank you for watching this PowerPoint presentation.